to another episode of the Raw Knowledge Podcast with your host, as ever, myself, Alex Connor. And today I'm back, yes, with another guest, one of the members of the 3DMJ family, Alberto Nunez. How are you, my friend? And thank you for joining me.
Good, man. I just unplugged for a few days. So, not dreading the computer, man. You know how it is. We spend so much time in front of that thing that, and you have to sometimes, but, got my break, and pressing the on switch was actually extra exciting today. So first thing, so you got me fresh, man. You got me fresh and ready to go.
Awesome, dude. I've caught you at a good time. And we were just saying, I think it's worth mentioning before we started, just the importance of, unplugging, going out in nature, exploring your own backyard, especially with the current circumstances, and then coming back with that sort of rejuvenated flow and that excitement to get back into, what is the technological era or what we do for a living, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's funny. Every time I'm known for losing my phones. And I'll delay it a few days, man. I'll be like, they're like, do you have a phone yet? And it's like day 4. And I'm like, no, I'm kind of enjoying this. So yeah, no, definitely worth mentioning. So it's a new, there's a small print to everything, right? And as convenient as all this is, there's always small print, right? And I think as we understand it more and more, it's like, hey, we have to watch our dosages for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something to be said about unplugging and going back to what I like to call the basics, having conversations, not having anything over filtered or too processed, shall we say, in the environment, and just living in the moment, man. I know that sounds a bit rich, but it's true. And we should do it more. For people who may not be aware, I know a lot of the listeners and the audience will be, but even so, can you give us a bit of synopsis of what you do, who you are, and more importantly, why you do what you do?
All right. That last one, way to close it. Okay, so man, I've been lifting June is actually my anniversary month. This is year 22, I think, of lifting. And I think initially it was just to hang out with a buddy. That's all it was. He wanted to go do some lift. I've never understood why dudes wanted to lift. Like I never had any issue with I always thought I looked okay. I played sports, so obviously that helped. So I'm like, fine, I'll do this. And my dad was actually huge on it, so I didn't want to do it because you have to rebel against whatever, especially your father's doing. And I tried it, and it was like day 1. I'm like, wow, this is pretty awesome. And since then I couldn't get enough. Finally, I think like 3 years later, all the other sports were done. And I'm like, I'm just going to do this bodybuilding thing. Did it, found myself on stage from the day I started lifting to my first comp. It was about 8 years. Loved it. Had the typical rookie season where you just mess everything up. But if it's for you, you still enjoyed it and you think it was great. But I had to do it again the next year to redeem myself. I did. I hired Lane Norton as my coach, who at that point had been a friend for many years. So we're going way back. Gotten sensational shape, especially for that time. And I think what helped is that, there was some pros that were doing that because I got my pro card that year, but not a whole lot of pros were actually in there speaking with people, posting pictures, taking them through the process. And so through there, me and then Eric Helms, we kind of built up this following, especially in the natural bodybuilding sector. And I think we were, about the first proponents of just flexible dieting, and the fact that it's not just for someone who's trying to lose a few pounds for a high school reunion or something like that, but it might be useful for a competitive athlete. And from there, just blew up, man. It just blew up overnight. It went from we just wanted to cover shows, put out some good articles, to, hey, do you guys coach? So it was it was naturally the next step. And then, obviously what we had in regards to vision and enthusiasm, we lacked maturity at that point because we were like in our, I think in like early to mid 20s. So we hired these old guys, Brad Loomis, Jeff Alberts, or more so asked them to join us in this endeavor. And next thing you know, we're here and we're, yeah, what we're most known for is, hey, you know, walking the walk. We're all competitors, you know, both as powerlifters, bodybuilders, but also helping people through their journey and trying to leave the sport better than how we found it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's been, like you said, I think a bit of a natural evolution from just doing something that you all were very passionate about. You had a lot of care for. You were just like four guys doing your thing. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you naturally had conversations. You found, hey, you know what? I'm into that too. And then people were like, hey, you know what? I'm into that too. Can you guys offer some help? I think it's funny, you know, when you do something that you genuinely enjoy, that you were just going to do anyway, I think you
Mm-hmm.
attract a lot of like-minded people who are just like, yeah, like, you know what? So do I. And then you create these friendships that last lifetime, but also which has now become, you know, a business, you know, your family, a movement, and it helps a lot of people. I know, and I've said this to Eric and Jeff, who have been fortunate enough to feature on here. I've been fortunate enough to speak to them. You guys were like the protagonist that led me into what I call like more the evidence-based world. You know, I found Matt Ogus and I was like, who's coaching this guy? And it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
3DMJ.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think you guys do a lot of good work. I want to go back to the beginning. And you mentioned your father, you mentioned your dad, how he was into training. Would you say that even though, you know, it was, and I get it, you know, you sort of want to rebel a little bit and, you know, your dad takes you in the gym, you're like, hey, don't be telling me what to do, man. I know what I'm doing. Was he the sort of protagonist that got you into lifting, would you say? Or was there anything else apart from, you mentioned the feeling, and I know a lot of people are going to connect with that,
Mm-hmm.
that really inspired you to continue on like lifting? Or was there
Mm-hmm.
any other events? Because I know you said, you know, you're very sporting, you know, you got athletic background, anything like that. And it might not be, it could just be that initial, you know, hook point in the gym.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he did it. It was kind of off and on, but man, my pops had like some Martian genetics. Like he was here a few months ago, and I'm like, Pop, show. I was telling my girlfriend, show him your hands, and like, it's like similar structure, but he's just so much like his hands are just like these huge mitts. Like he's just a super robust guy. So I just and all the kids would come over to see my dad's biceps and stuff. They flip out. And I remember this is my dad, and I remember. But I remember this one time he was trying to connect my Super Nintendo for me, and he rolled out the instructions, and I'm like, holy crap, his back is wide. I never noticed until now. His back is wide. Whoa, that is a wide dude. And I have a tiny little rib cage. But, I did track. And for that, I had to be like sleek and thinner. So I was usually about, 130, 140 pounds, like in the 60s kilo wise. So I was doing my thing, and I really wanted to do my thing separately from what he was doing. I remember one time he purchased protein powder for me so that I can have that post practice, and I nearly flipped my wig. I'm like, Pops, I don't want to take anything that you guys take, like in hindsight, pretty ignorant, but I didn't see the fuss. I didn't see the fuss. I like being fast. That was my thing. But nothing had ever felt so appropriate, like activity wise, like that. Like especially like those grinder reps that I think it takes most people a while to actually get accustomed to. Like I look forward to training with my buddies and just getting reps in that they thought I was not going to be able to get. Like I love it was like an adrenaline rush, to see and mildly inappropriate how much I could take almost, so I really, yeah, no, it was right away. And then I started the same friends I started lifting with, I would make up excuses so I wouldn't hang out with them so I could go to the gym by myself, basically. So yeah, no, I loved it from day one. And I think in hindsight, I was kind of like, man, I can't wait for these sports to be over so that I can pursue the next thing, which I knew in some way was going to involve that.
Yeah, for sure. What age were you around this time when you first stepped in the gym?
16. Yeah.
There you go.
Um, yeah. And I mean, in hindsight, now I could have started like younger, like so. Hey, lesson there. It's like, hey, be open to stuff, right? Because I think my pops would have been more than willing to take me at 11, 12,
Yeah.
which wouldn't have been a bad thing for like my net profit. So I remember that now. It's like, hey, give it a try. You might like it.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, I think a lot. I mean, I can certainly resonate. My dad, he is into lifting, and he, for a guy who's natural, he's got pretty incredible genetics. And yeah, he took me to the gym at 12. Actually, he never forced me to do it, and I was sort of just through, I think, life and adversity, I was like, yeah, man, I want to look good. I was always like the small kid. I'm like, I don't want people to pick on me. I traveled, I lived in different countries, but I look back now and I'm more grateful for it. Like you said, it's that hindsight, like, oh man, if I maybe would have took that on a little bit more. And I mean, I started young, but I've wasted a lot of years after that until I sort of learned and had the role models and good people there. But sounds like your dad, he's still in shape then, right?
Uh, no, I mean he looks okay for his age.
Yeah.
He like sarcopenia hasn't messed him up really. He's in his 60s now. But
Yeah.
I kid you not, like he was here in my living room in his shorts, and I'm like, your legs are shaped just like mine. Like it was so eerie to see. So he's just a dense dude. Perfect height for a bodybuilder. You know how that goes. It's like the inverse of sports, right? It's like I know a lot of tremendous athletes that, height was kind of what bottlenecked them at a certain point. But with bodybuilding, it's like 5'6", 5'7" is like that's world class height right there. That's what we want. So yeah, yeah. Now he stays active through work, but no lifting. Lifting was a short thing, but he just had a crazy response to it. And like his neck grew for no reason, like that sort of dude. You know, makes me sick, man. I could have used those genetics.
Sounds like you got a little bit, but it would have been nice to get a bit more. But there's always those people, right? It's
Yeah,
it's like the people at school who got straight A's, never even tried. You're like, God damn it. Or
yeah.
I actually go to school with a guy who was a runner. He was it's when I moved to New Zealand. I was always fast, right? Usually short guys are, fast step frequency, no stride length, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I remember my mate saying, well, he become my friend. He wasn't my friend at the time. He comes up to me and he goes, "Are you fast?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Are you fast running?" And I said, I'm all right. And he goes, "Well, I'm the fastest in the class. So if you can beat me, you're fast." I was like, all right. So anyway, I remember, but I see in New Zealand when I was there, they all run in bare feet. You see, this is the thing kids do. It's not a bad thing. But I didn't grow up with that in England. So they were like running bare feet. And I'm like, ow, ow, because my feet are not accustomed. He's like, dude, you're not fast. And I was like, dude, I need shoes. He's like, why do you need shoes? I'm like, anyway, years later, and he's like, "Yeah, you're pretty fast." I was like, cool, cool. And he's like, "I got a mate. You need to meet him. It's called Rambo." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he goes by the name Rambo." Yeah, I know, right? This is for teenagers. Anyway, I met this guy, Rambo. Man, this guy was like a bodybuilder at 16 years old, like natural, just genetically gifted. I understand why now with the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
He was sort of, he had a Filipino, he had like a American Indian, and then he was like Kiwi mix. This guy's like chest, arms, legs, and this guy just destroyed us in the 100 meters. I'm like, yeah, and I'm just this little white kid, right? And then years later, I was like, I started weight training. He's like, dude, what are you doing? This, that, and the other. And you're just like, man, if you would have weight trained, like, and you took it seriously, and not that people have to,
Mhm.
but I'm like, damn, like you would have just been a freak. Like looking back now with the knowledge I had, but it's funny how sometimes people with the genetics, they're not into it. They don't even try. And like maybe it's a bit selfish of us who lift and we're like, damn man, like if I coached you, shit. Like
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think the issues for a lot of those folks is it kind of blinds them a little bit. Like I think sometimes say they do it, and they're well intentioned, but they're trying to help out other folks. That's where it can get a bit confusing because for some people, um, yeah, I'm pretty sure my pops just went in there and did chest more than anything else, but you got to back somewhere along the way, right? From his 3 sets of lat pull downs or something. So that's I love the freaks, man, because they make the sport so exciting, and it's like, wow, this is what the human body can do. But at the same time, they confuse it for they confuse folks who are trying to just maximize themselves. And, again, like that's my thing is like, if, people who come to us, it's like, hey, they really love this. This is a big part of them, and they want to maximize it and have, I guess, again, the best 3D muscle journey possible. Right. Um, and, and that's what we do. We want to facilitate that and help expedite the process, make it educational, make it a good experience. But it's so hard sometimes, man, when it's like, hey, so-and-so is doing these behind the back shrugs / rack pulls, it's so yeah, man. I guess fortunately, but unfortunately, yeah, those folks exist, man. But it is crazy the very, like, just how both these people can be human beings, but it's like their response to training can be drastically different. It's insane, man.
This is true. That's a really good salient point, because this is leading on to kind of where I'm going with a couple of things I really want to talk to you about, because I know you've got some really good knowledge to share on this. And one of them is like that setting expectations. Like, what does that look like? How do those conversations go? Because like you said, we will use the analogy of, people see the big guy in the gym or the girl with the great glutes, and she's doing things that are unintelligent, but she still gets, or he gets results from. And sometimes they don't even know themselves what got results. So they just prescribe the same thing, or even worse, they just sort of shoot in the dark, right? But then people go, well, Alex, why do they look like that? Surely, I mean, I just did a passage yesterday on not walking around with a weight belt, because of, fashion and other things, and what the actual role of a weight belt is. And you see girls got it on the stepper machine and all this carry on, and guys doing curls with it. It's like, come on, but people see this and they go, well, they must know what they're doing, right? They look good from what I can perceive. So, what do you do to kind of, professionally and respectfully help people set a more realistic expectation, especially when you get athletes coming on board, without obviously, demoralizing them and setting them up for what you guys do really well, having a great relationship and a long-term relationship with, lifting and actually enjoying their process and their journey?
Mm-hmm. Man, Matt, what just to like give people an idea, like, I think endurance sports are, because that's what humans are meant to do. There's a story by, I'm gonna mispronounce his name, but I think it's John Antine or Antien. Either way, he wrote a book a while ago about genetics. So somewhere along the way, I've heard a story from him about, it was an African prince who was out here. His parents sent him here to like basically like, get his education, come back. And so anyhow, American life caught up to him. He was partying. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And his parents wanted him back. And he was like, nah, I don't want to go back. I need to figure this out. That's the worst thing for me to come back. So he remembered that, I guess, his tribe, like, they were runners. And he was like, you know what, I'm going to join the cross country team. And that's going to be my way of staying here. And that's exactly what he did. So joined the cross country team. And within a month, he had like a scholarship so that he could stay. So he's in a month. And prior to that, didn't really run. He just knew his people ran. And that was that. So it's crazy how people just respond so differently to similar stimulus. So I think globally, what I recommend to people is that, man, this is more so not the conversation I have with my athletes, but more so the perspective I'd give people, because I think now I'm at a stage in my lifting where I almost feel like a slow responder. It's nothing like the first few years, where literally that summer that I went to go lift with my buddies, when I came back to school, I looked so different. Like, everyone was like, what happened? And I kid you not, it was like 6 weeks or something, so that's done. That's over. Like, now things are, it's crawling, man. But I get so much more from the sport in different ways. I think the best thing it's taught me is how to be just a better thinker, because you have to, especially if you're kind of hanging out well, not just the evidence-based sector, but just bodybuilding as a whole, like learning to, I love the saying, separate the shit from the ice cream in regards to information. And, you know, the further you go through this, the better you're going to have to get at that. And I see it just that same mindset, that same skill set of critical thinking being applied to other things. Like just as I examine my own behaviors, politics, you know, so yeah, so here's a catch, right? It's like, okay, maybe you don't respond as well as so and so at the gym, but your experience is going to be rich in a different way. So talk about like head to toe improvement, because you know I think bodybuilding, it's like, and that's kind of our holistic approach. It's like the whole thing. It's inside and out, or at least it should be. So yeah, if you don't respond as well as you know those freaks or that dude at your gym, it's like, hey, you know what? You're probably getting a lot more in different ways from this sport, from this hobby. But man, with athletes one-on-one, that can be tricky sometimes, because you know sometimes they have aspirations of, you know, getting that pro card, having a physique that, you know, just like travels miles and miles and just becomes a here's an Hocus pun, a legend of aesthetics, you know, like that's what they want, and that's not necessarily in the cards for everyone. So, you know, at a certain point, I think a good coach does have those conversations with their athlete, but it's going to look very different, because I honestly, I don't think I'd even stick myself in there until, you know, we've built up a, you know, a good solid foundation of a relationship. But you need to have that, because you need to have that, man, because otherwise everyone kind of learns the hard way at the end in regards to like where they stand there. And a good coach will kind of help it be a, you know, like when I found out, hey, I'm not going to look like Ronnie Coleman no matter how many steroids I take, like I really did think for a minute, but it would have been a softer landing with the appropriate guidance for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And, you know, and again, this is a good jumping off point to the next sort of segue and, you know, into sort of performance enhancing supplements. And again, you know, and I think you guys touched on this on the last Q&A, and I think Eric and Omar touched on it
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much how sometimes, like, even if you did take everything, you still wouldn't look the way you want to look, because as much as genetics is a factor, it's, you know, people focus on it too much, but it's almost like you have to be cruel to be kind, because I see a lot of coaches, and I'm an optimist, right? I'm definitely, you know, the glass is half full, not empty kind of guy. But at the same time, you've got to, again, I think it's about setting context and going, hey, look, like this, like, let's get on the field we're actually playing on, rather than something that, you know, we're not. So then, you know, when we play the game, you know, we know kind of where the goal line is and all of this, to use a metaphor. So sometimes by being honest initially, someone might feel disheartened, but they'll respect you. And then hopefully, you know, they won't necessarily waste time and money from someone who just is going to go, yeah, you know what, I'll take your money and I'll tell you that that's going to happen. Yeah. And it never does, because there's just too much of that in the industry, which is one of the reasons why me and you are having this conversation now, because I like to speak to people who are leading by example and, you know, uplifting, promoting, and raising the industry standard rather than sort of taking away from it. So I think, you know, focus on the good, not on the bad, like focus on what we can control. And you guys do that tremendously well. I want to talk, like, the segue is now, you know, on your own journey as well, sharing that time point where you perhaps thinking about going to what we quote unquote would call the dark side, or just really, you know, going to be performance enhanced in terms of, you know, anabolic steroids. What were the things that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I remember when, from what I can recall, when you were talking about this, it was like, oh shit, like you started taking this a lot more seriously. And like, because like, oh, if I'm going to take this, I'm going to hit the macros, I'm going to train hard, I'm going to sleep well. And then you were like, yo, fuck, like this, I'm getting mad results like without it. So I don't know if that's part of it, but if you could share your experience with that and maybe the decision that led you to stay natural. Because I know a lot of people out there, you know, they're on the fence. A lot of young guys get, you know, the wrong information. Then they're like, shit, man, I wish I would have had some perspective. So if you could share that, Alberto, that'd be really valuable.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of it has to do with, because it was very normalized to me, the idea of taking performance enhancing drugs. Shoot, I think I remember even when I was running track, I was like, hey, if I run a certain time, then it's worth it, you know? Like there was a threshold that was one of my good friends. He's like, okay, if you could run a 10-3, 10-4 naturally in the 100, it's like, then yeah, it's worth the time. So bodybuilding, obviously, it's even more normalized, and especially back then, I remember bodybuilding.com actually had a steroid section, where just left and right, it was, you just knew the screen names, but it was, so and so who you followed lightly. It's like, oh, so and so's first cycle, and you're like, oh, and you're just there, like just watching. So for me, a big part of it was like, hey, I want to compete against the best. And I always felt like the best were in the NPC, IFBB section. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just get some traction with this. But at some point I knew I was going to. So I remember when the first gen pro hormones were about to be banned, I'm like, well, I'm going to take them anyways. I was like, I think like 20 at the time. So it was my first full year of like growing and bulking, and I made some great progress, but nevertheless, I'm like, I got some traction. Let's go for it. So spend like $1,000 on these pro hormones because they were going quick, man. So I was going from this side to that side, just collecting. And then, yeah, I remember getting my stuff. It finally all came in, and I'm like, okay, well, now let's figure out how to take this. And I remember trying to find logs of people taking it. And it was so ambiguous and wishy-washy. I remember that like no one actually had after pictures. Like they would start a log, but they never finished it. So I was like, that's kind of weird. Like this doesn't make me feel so good about what I thought at that point in time was like my like for reals decision. Then I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna have to do extra research, figure this out. Remember, I even had all like my dosages and how it was all going to be taken, like written down. And then I'm like, all right, the training bit. And I'm like, holy crap, the training bit, you've never even done that. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. All right. That's a problem. Same thing with the nutrition. I'm like, wow. Okay. We've never really thought about this all the way through. So I'm like, you know what? Like, and especially those logs that were just to be continued. I'm like, a lot of people just jumped on this. They didn't get amazing results, I think. So you know what? I'm just going to, I remember I ended up trading them in for a gym membership. I got completely ripped off, but I was like, oh, because I was walking to my gym. I saw them in the back. I'm like, I thought they were supposed to be banned. And they're like, oh, there's a 6-month period where we can still sell them. We just can't purchase anymore from here on. And I'm like, hey, would you guys do the switch with me? And they did. So gave them my stuff, my stash, and I got a gym membership. I think it was like a 2-year deal or something like that. Anyhow, the gym ended up closing down early. I just walked in one day and they're like, yeah, we're out of it. But at the end of that streak, I remember it was a shit show, man. Yeah. I got my money's worth though, man, because I went on the hottest streak ever. I remember prior to that, if I didn't feel like training, I wouldn't train, like if I didn't feel like eating the way I was supposed to, I didn't do it. I enjoyed it once I was there, but I wasn't as precise. So after that, I went on a 3-year hot streak, didn't miss a scheduled workout. I didn't miss a scheduled meal. Like it was that crazy. Not necessary, but, it kind of shows you where I was. And 3 years later, I had mutated into something that I'm like, man, this is worthy of the stage. But yeah, I think what helped a lot was what got me going that direction, the direction I didn't take initially, was the fact that it was just so normalized in the sport. And as I learned more about natural bodybuilding, which I had to, once I made the decision not to, it's just I had to search in every corner for scraps of content. But that's I think now it's even worse because it's even more normalized. Or I'm glad that it's talked about because we shouldn't. I don't think we should censor people, but the small print isn't brought up nearly enough. You only hear about the good parts. Because even now at my gym, man, it's like I'm told that, oh, so and so's on this, so and so's, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that person is on, So yeah, I wish people were more transparent about like what the other things that come with that. Much like we've done with the contest prep. I think initially it was just like, oh, get the shreds, get happy. Life is perfect now, right? We know it's not that way. There's small print, and we talk about it more now, thankfully. But I don't think it's done nearly enough when it comes to that side of the sport, unfortunately. And I think if people did speak about that more, um, people would have a minute to pause, like I thankfully had a moment to pause and hopefully make the decision that's better for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's it's especially in certain parts of the world, especially where I am, where a good 90% of people are on it, even if they don't look like it. You can,
Yeah.
with experience, you can see the signs, or so and so.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time that it's kind of like recreational drugs. It's not policed. There's a lot of tainted stuff. At least back in the day, if people, I always use Ozzy Osbourne as an example. Like, he's still alive, he's lucky, but like, shit, man, he took some stuff, but it was probably the stuff. When now, like, you don't know. Like, I've had people come up to me, ask me, and I'm like, hey, like, I appreciate it, but I don't take or use it. So it's a compliment. And they'll ask me about it, and I said, look, I don't know. And it's like, there's oils, people have even pulled it out. I'm like, put that shit away. Like, that's not don't be doing that in the gym, man. Like, it's not, it seems to be more socially acceptable, but I would always say to someone, like, where possible, speak to a physician, and then like a natural athlete versus an enhanced that is transparent. But I say that because my dad, in England, obviously England is massive, it's a massively populated country. A lot of great bodybuilders have come out of there, and he was training in a gym where a lot of the guys were on it. My dad, again, naturally quite big, and the guys are like, Paul, like, you got to get on this shit, man. Like, you'll just explode, and this, that, and the other. And sure enough, maybe he would have been pretty good because he's genetically predisposed. But anyways, with my mom at the time, my mom's like, if you take that, like, that's it, we're done. So that was a good incentive for him. But then he's like, oh, I'll go to the doctors. Like, I'll see what the doctor says. This doctor had a bit about him, and he sat him down. He's like, look, here's all the pros. Here's all the cons, which there are a lot more. This is what you need to do if you do it. Here's the pharmaceutical grade. Like, there's a lot to. My dad's like, oh shit, and it's expensive. Yeah. My dad's like, spent an hour with him, walked out. He's like, I'll never want to do it. Put me off for life, right? But how many people now, like these young folks, ever get even that conversation? But moreover, the facts, because like you said, it's the glory, it's the fast. Everyone wants things fast now, right? It's Instagram, it's social media, it's here, it's now, it's there. And I think that kind of adds to it. So the young guys, and I get it, they're young, they get influenced, and they don't think about 10 years when they want a family, or when, oh shit, now some of the organs are failing, amongst other things, and this, that, they just don't have that foresight. And fair enough, they're kids. But again, it's like, we need people who are actually being transparent on both sides of the fence. And I know I won't name names, but there's a couple of key people in the industry at the minute who I've got to say, they're being transparent about their drug use, and they're like, I'm fucked. Like, was it worth it for a little bit of glory? And maybe, some of them turn it into financial success with products and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, look, like you mentioned before, Ronnie. Like, yeah, he's a legend, but man, the guy is suffering. Like, that's not a way to live, in my opinion. And I personally, I've spoke to a lot of bodybuilders who are in 60s and 70s, and I respect them, and they're natural, and man, they're still going. Yeah, they might not look fucking amazing, but for their age, they look great, and they got no health problems, man. Like, sure, genetics aside, it's just, I don't know. I think there's something much more rewarding about just like having the longevity as well, because life is short enough without shortening it. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, but I don't, it's like fast forwarding your life.
Man, there is this one YouTube channel. It's he goes by the Anabolic Doc. I don't know if you're familiar with his videos, but he takes you take out the complete write-up on the stuff. And it's crazy because a lot of these drugs, it's like they're made for people who are terminally ill, so they don't waste away. Like, these are powerful drugs. I mean, you're taking someone who's dying from something really terrible, and it helps, get them back on their feet in some, like, it assists with the process. Like, so it's it's not that simple, and usually, you know how it goes, man. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And it's no different when it comes to steroids. But yeah, man, it's one of the few decisions that I think in hindsight now, because I was 20 at the time, I'm 38 now. I'm like, man, like I didn't do a lot of things that were like back to that era that I'm like, that was a nice nest egg to sit on, but that was one of those things. And now that I'm 38, I'm like, man, like it's been great. It's like I'm 38, but I feel about the same as like 10 years ago, you know? It's like, I mean, I look at other 38-year-olds and I'm like, man, like I still got a little pep in my step, I still have my vigor intact. And, I've seen how it's impacted my 20s and now my 30s, soon to be in my 40s. And I'm like, man, this was just for sport initially, which, a little bit more surfacey, I think. Oh yeah, a little bit more surfacey than it is now in some ways, because now it's so much more. Like I see how positively can impact so many other things in life. And I don't think I would have had that experience had I taken the express lane. I don't think it would have been as scenic, nor could I have appreciated, all the little things that happen along the way, both the good and the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, probably something to be really mindful of as well, is people who are like role models, and there's always someone that is a bit further down the track and you're like, shit, man, that's like, I got that to look forward to, like potentially if I look after myself. And I think there's something to be said about that, man. I wanted to talk about as well the art of simplicity. It's a bit of a mantra for me, because I was always overthinking. I know a lot of people do in this sport, and you've been training, like you said, now for 2 decades over. And and we can talk a little bit of the science, but like it's really easy to get caught up in all of the jargon again, social media. Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. But something that I always come back to, is the people that inspire me, my coaches, people like yourselves who are like, yo, like even like the muscle and strength pyramids, right? It's like, here's the fundamentals, here's the basics, here's kind of the evolution. I don't know if you want to speak to like where people have perhaps gone wrong with that from someone who is still, like you said, obviously that rate of progression is now a lot slower. That's the truth, right? Everyone loves those beginner gains. People be like, man, I'll put 60 kilo on my bench. It's just going to keep happening like that every 6 months. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It ain't. And then, you got to be a bit more strategic. But at some point, I don't know, like I was listening to even John Meadows the other day on Jeff Nippard's channel, and he had a really salient point, and amongst other athletes regardless, and he was like, it almost goes back to the beginning where when you get advanced, you just choose some basic exercises and then you just take them to the house, like because they feel good, you can do them pain-free, and then obviously you're oscillating and rotating. So I'd love to kind of get your overview on that, and then ask you a few more key questions about progression specifically at this level. Because I think a lot of people, they come up to me and they're like, I'm done, man. Like, I can't get any bigger. I'm like, nah, like, trust me, you haven't even scratched the surface. Respectfully, you haven't even scratched, like, it might be slow, but like you've got a lot more. Like, there's more based on, your training, nutrition, like there's always more. So I don't know if you just want to speak to the overview of that, and then we can get into some more specifics.
Yeah. And actually it connects to what I had mentioned before about, now at 38, like I see other perks in this. It's like when I see Jeff, like Jeff just turned 50. Jeff Alberts, our very own. And like, I look at the dude and I'm like, that's 50. Like that's insane. It's like the man like still glows. He's still bursting out of shirt. He's still, as much as he says like, oh, this hurts, that hurts. It's like, well, that's every other 50-year-old Jeff. Shut your mouth, man. You look great. You're strong, and you can keep up with your kid. And so with Jeff, it's like he's always been a pretty simple dude, I think, in regards to training.
He's not doing anything.
And no, nothing at all. And he's among the best in the world. And I think it's what got him there. That's just kind of his personality. He's kind of like just a cheeseburger with maybe some lettuce, maybe a tomato in there, and that's it. That's Jeff, right? So just over time, he's just made that into a really, really good cheeseburger. You know, like the quality of the meat's gone better. He's perfected the toasting of the bun. So that's honestly, I think that's
That's a good
like,
analogy, bro. That's good. I like that.
well, you know, another one that kind of goes with that is kind of like I think most people's squat is kind of that way. It's like most of us have remade our squat how many times? Where it's like, all right, I'm gonna bring
Yes.
it back down, right? Because this is my new squat form. But this is the last time we say it, it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
Um, so but it kind of it's going back to the basics, and it's like, hey, let me go. I mean, that's pretty much what you're saying. Let me go back and redo this work that I didn't get right the first time. And the issue is that, I mean, all other sports kind of have that, where it's
Yeah.
like, when you're playing as a little kid, it's like here, baseball's big. It's like, this is how you get a ball off the ground. This is how you get it from the glove to the hand and now you throw. We just don't have that. And I think the muscle and strength pyramids were like the first like book on the fundamentals of bodybuilding. So that's why, honestly, that's one of the first questions I ask a lot of my athletes is like, hey, have you read that yet? And if not, I think you should read that. And honestly, it's probably gonna be a keeper, because it's one of those things where it's just like, it's a reference book that you're just forever proud of just like owning. If someone owns that, it's like you kind of know where they're at. Um, so yeah, like even to this day, like it's the fundamentals that I continue to work on. It's what honestly still gets me like my biggest gains. And I mean, I've done all sort of weird exotic things once I got to that advanced stage, because I'm like, okay, this is what you need to do to get to the next level. But man, even with like other sports, it doesn't work that way. It's like you just simplify things, you narrow it down to what works, because again, specificity, specialization is what really makes you good at something. So first you need to identify like, what are those things I need to do and I need to perfect. And a big part of that is like the stuff that happens outside of the gym. Like we talk about those freaks, the hyper responders. It's like, well, you maybe, I think sometimes the person who responds below average to strength training, they look at on the training side. It's like, okay, what can I do to fix this? And it's like, well, what a hyper responder has is it like literally he just flicks his bicep like that and the thing just decides to grow. It's just so sensitive. It's like, have you ever thought about taking care of the things outside of the gym so that you can make yourself as much of a hyper responder as possible? Which again is going to require things like, going to sleep on time, hey, getting your protein and your protein feedings in, having a balanced diet, learning to manage stress, which sometimes might mean like cutting some of the fat from your life. These are all really hard things, but once you get them down, they become quite passive. If anything, they just become habits like driving to the gym. So yeah, I think again, it's like the key to unlocking the most advanced version of yourself. It's just not glamorous, and I think that's why people don't endure as much as they want to sometimes.
Yeah. I always say, well, I've been saying for the past year from listening to people who have more experience than myself, there's never one thing, right? Everyone's looking for the
Yeah,
magic pill. But I'm
yeah.
like, if there is an ingredient to success, it's consistency, and it's a hidden ingredient, and it's not sexy, but it's like you said up lifestyle. No, I'm like,
Mhm.
hey, lifestyle depicts your success with training and nutrition. We didn't think, okay, it's like comes back to that adherence thing, right? It's like the start, behavior and lifestyle, bottom of the pyramid, which I recommend everyone. I'll put the links in below, because that's like, that's my first thing. If someone's like serious and they're like, yo, like,
Mhm.
I want to learn this, and I'm like, right, this is the best investment you'll ever make. Like literally,
Yeah,
like if you
yeah,
really into this, like,
yeah,
and all my coaches, I'm like, you read that, like you got to read that,
yeah,
like, cause it's just there,
yeah.
it's like your day one stuff. But yeah, people like that analogy before with Jeff. It's like you actually if you looked at his training, like written down, and you're like, this is the training, this is the physique, this is the time. People will be like, okay, what else? Like what, where, like, oh, you were looking for the magic sauce, right? It's not there. Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's the consistency of that. And it's not what you do, it's how you do it over time. But like you said, most people are not there to endure that, which is really ironic, right? Because it's like, oh, there has to be something fancy. There has to be a little magic, and everyone's looking. And the people out there are selling you the magic. That's the problem.
That's the
People
problem, man.
people want the magic, but you got like a million people out there going, yeah, I'll sell you the magic pill. Come on, I'll tell you the secrets. And you're like, no. And then there's people like us who are like trying to give you the real but they're like, no, that's too good to be true because that's too simple and you're not charging enough for it. And it's too simplistic. It's not sexy. So it can't be that. And you're just standing there like, shit, what else can I do? Which is kind of what you were talking about before, like, or on the Q&A and what we relate to. Like, it's so hard to kind of get that across to someone that it could be quite simple, not complex, but I don't know. It's
And you know where it's helped me though? Whenever I am like a newbie in a different world, like for example, when I first wanted to start, I'm like, you know what? I should probably start thinking about retirement and investing, like that's one world where it's like, man, you could get massively fucked in, like if you're not careful. And I remember I had to sort out through all this mess to get to the stuff that I'm like, okay, this sounds annoyingly simple, tedious, boring. Like very like it's gonna take some waiting. I'm like, but I'm probably close. And that goes like when it comes to anything now, like if I wanted to learn this, take up that. So as of this past week, actually, like I like fishing. So fishing, it's like, hey, okay, I'm gonna start going down that rabbit hole. And same thing, I'm gonna look for those dudes that are just like they're gonna tell me something along the line that I don't want to hear, but I'll probably, if I keep up with it, have to go back to that anyways. So I mean, and if you go through all the basics, you go through the fundamentals, like you develop a certain level of mastery that makes you, I guess, more wary about just the people who are not masters, like in other worlds, like I don't know, your next financial advisor, your lawyer, whatever, it's like you learn to pick up on that stuff where you're like, no, this is, it don't work that way, just based off your adventures in this fitness world. But yeah, no, those like I hardly ever tell people like you have to spend your money on this, like you have to, but those books are like they're there, like it is a must. If you are a meathead, it's like you need to have those books.
Yeah, I think it also kind of gives you clarity and perspective as well. Like I have a few key, and this is kind of going to be on the line of inquiry. It's going to lead in nicely to the sort of next topic I want to talk about, because you mentioned this the other day, and I was just like, that's really good. I want to talk to Alberto about that on the podcast, because it's really good for the listeners. This is the reason, but having like, because sometimes I train at a commercial gym still, like that's where I run my one-on-one coaching, and there's obviously a lot of, that's where all the fads are a lot of the time, they're not in the more exclusive, we used to have I used to be part of a strength gym, which a lot of the mentors who are very much in the space and keeping it simple, they're all like natural Olympia pros, super humble guys, they're just, hey, I was doing my thing. And we just had, like, even in the gym, right, it was like 5 squat racks, dumbbells, 1 lat pull down, 1 row, and a cable machine. It was like the base, and people would walk in for commercial gyms, be like, where's all the machines? And we're like, what do you mean? And we're like, just free weights, like, and a few cables. It's like, yeah, but don't you need it? Like, no, like, and they're looking at the guys like, how do they look like that? And they're doing that. It's like, well, basics, bro. So like the gym was the definition of it. But every time I get a little bit like, I feel like, oh, I'm overthinking it, I just come back and I have a chat to the guys, and they're like, Alex, man, like, simple. Like, yeah, because I'll be like, I'm thinking this, and they're like, yeah, like you don't need it. Yeah, even like programming for like some like athletes. I'm like, oh, should I be? And they're like, no, like don't remember the base. And they kind of ground me, and that's what I get as well when I always listen to you guys at 3DMJ and that podcast. Like, it's funny because sometimes I'll be thinking of a topic and then it comes up and I'm like, that's exactly what I needed to hear right there. But it's so easy to get caught up in the glamour. And what I wanted to ask you about is, especially like this one, female training. I think you talked about glutes the other day, right? And there's just, man, like, and some of this stuff has merit, but I just see all these coaches and it's like, they're all doing like, gotta have the booty band, gotta do this activation work, gotta do all this weird like shit from different angles. I'm just like, hang on. And like my girls are just doing the basics, right? They're just doing, the deadlifts, the squats, the hip thrust, vertical, horizontal, squat variations, hip hinge, like basic stuff and progression. And then like they're like fucking strong and looking good without being biased. And I just see so many people like getting distracted, but there's so many girls who are doing it that it seems to like keep kind of evolving. And I think you mentioned it was like a conversation with one of the female athletes, and you were just like, there's like a bikini girl, and you were like, yo, yeah, like we're just doing like these two things, like like that's it. So I'd love to get your take on that, and like some of those conversations, and how you would put that across, and maybe just hammer that point home, like, hey, like we don't have to do all of this to get that. We can actually just get like more quality. We can get more out of less, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, with the booty trend, it's like it's like they at some point they're like that 50% of the population. It's like, hey, we haven't cashed in on them yet, because like they were getting us forever, man. With just like I remember like 2 inches in your arms like in 2 months or something like that. So yeah, there's been a lot of undoing on that side, and I think the example I gave, because I'd consider squats for some people and deadlifts for some people to be kind of, we'll say, like B grade movements in regards to like, hey, this person has some really long legs, it can look funky on a squat, and there's some issues with the deadlift in regards to like maybe there's other hinges we can pick. Yeah. But some of the most developed drug-free like quads, hams, and glutes that I've seen on athletes has been our USA powerlifting here, which is just huge. It's like the king of drug-free strength sports, I think, I'd say, without a doubt. Just going, whenever I go to nationals, I'm in the warm-up area, I'm like, man, I wish these ladies could watch these ladies, and they're like, whoa, like really? And I'm like, yeah. And imagine if, we had, and you should see their programming, it's like, doesn't have a whole lot of variety because they're trying to get really good at these specific lifts. And obviously with powerlifting, it's the name of the game is objective improvement. It's like your numbers and your performance has to go up. That's the, you can't just give them a program that's exhausting, feels right, very effective, but really isn't. Like to them, it gets people to again really sift through what's working and not, like for powerlifters, because it's like, hey, at the end of that block, are you stronger? Nope. Okay, let's go back and let's correct. So what ends up happening is after many cycles of doing that, like these ladies are developing these really impressive glutes, these really impressive quads and hams. And again, like I said, for a lot of them, this might not be the best movement for them, but because they're constantly driving performance upwards, it's like the muscle kind of starts to have to, do something with itself. So I think especially with female trainees, like a big thing is helping them find their GER, because, for us dudes, most of the time, typically it's like we have maybe too much of that and we need to learn to control it. It's like, you're not ready for that weight just yet. And your form just has been getting worse over the last few weeks. Whereas with them, it's like usually their form is like, it's pretty passable most of the time, right? They're patient with it. Perhaps too patient is the issue, right? And it's like, you need to do some things that like are going to make you nervous as you get under the bar in some cases, or in that leg press or whatever it might be. So at the end, like whenever I give a program to someone, it's crazy because sometimes they're like, this is cutting edge. This is not what I expected. And my answer to them is kind of like, well, see, you wouldn't have done this on your own. Let's do this. And I want you to send me videos because I want the level of exertion to be as it's written. And I'm going to tell you if it's not, or form when anything else is off. And by, fine tuning those things over time, it's like the loads go up, and those regions that we're targeting, like tend to make these massive improvements that they have been searching for like years in some cases, by doing that's in some cases they have like 20-30 different movements like archived somewhere that they were using, when it's like, hey, maybe we have like 2 hinges, 2 squat patterns, and we're cashing in on that, so I love that. I love that. Sometimes, like, I guess the troll in me is like, I'm about to send them this program, and they're going to be like, no way, that I just give you some coin for that. And and then 12 weeks later, it's like they're singing a different tune altogether.
Yeah, man, like, I love that. That's a really, really passionate point that you just made for me, because a lot of guys and girls in the industry who are sort of, I guess, singing from our hymn sheet, um, to put it in one respect, man, there's it, sometimes as coaches we feel like I got to make it complex because I got to
Yeah.
show you this value, and it's like, we don't actually need to change this so often. We might change the loading and the rep ranges and the frequency and all this, right? We can manipulate those. That's forever changing. But sometimes, or oftentimes, the devil is in the details. But yeah, that is a big challenge, because a lot of people are like, whoa, like that's less than what I would have done. I'm like, yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
there's more in it, like in actually performing it. And like you said, I want to see the intensity. And I do agree that that is the general consensus, guys. Very hard. Girls, maybe not enough. Generally, not always. And that's sort of like, shit, you would have done 10 exercises or 10 and it's like, now we're just doing 5, but we're mastering it. There's a person who I'll not name, he's doing really well in the bikini world. And one of my coaches, she asked me today, she goes, she's a bikini athlete. She says, Alex, what do you think about this? Like, he doesn't and they know I'm pretty avid main movements, but at the same time, I'm also past the point where I don't believe you have to do conventional SBD. Like, I mean, I even vary it up a lot these days, because again, certain movements feel better, like my goal is bodybuilding, not just powerlifting, and, the joints feel better and you want the variety and all of this. But fundamentally, people don't understand, like, it's still a squat variation, it's still a hip hinge, like that. And again, this goes back to the pyramids, right? I'm like, there's actually there's actually a very few movements in the gym, they're just themed differently. So, but she said to me, he never programs deadlifts. She goes, what do you think about that? And I said, well, why? Like, I need some context. And she was saying, well, and then this is what I'm getting for her. He believes that it develops a thick lower back and a thicker physique, where bikini girls, we want that sort of small waist. And I was like, well, I can understand maybe like why you wouldn't just deadlift, because if you're just deadlifting, it's very taxing, you might do other movements. But I'm like, to not do the movement pattern, or I said, and even to just not do deadlifts for a phase, for me, like, I personally, I think that isn't intelligent. Like, I would say that you would get a benefit from it. Like, if it's not there, cool. Like, and this person, credit where it's due, producing some amazing physiques. But I'm just like, I don't think if you're natural, like, that's a problem. But I also fundamentally think that maybe it's like, oh, if we do that, we're going to look like powerlifters. And like, most powerlifters, right? They're a little bit chunkier. But I'm like, that's just because they're at higher body fat most of the time. It's not, that's not because they're, they've developed like bigger bone structures. So, that's not possible. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, but again, it's hard to kind of, you're like, hey, like, let's look at the facts, but think about this logistically. I just don't know if, like, but again, it's like, well, you've got to create value. And this person has all these testimonials, physique. So it's like, well, it must be right. Deadlifting is not good for you. It's like, no, like, I don't think that's the case. So I know it's hard on these ones, but you get a lot of this, and it's hard to kind of disseminate, without stepping on people's toes.
Yeah. Like with like, I still program deadlifts. Like, honestly, like, some people, if they enjoy the crap out of them, it's like, hey, I'll take that stimulus to fatigue ratio, because it's like you are amped up when our deadlifts get like super heavy in a block. So it's like, like, I do things like that for myself. I use some movements, I'm like, God, that'd probably be better, but man, like, this movement just, I'm excited on my drive. So that's one thing people forget. I think also in the bikini world, because it is so dominated by enhanced folks. Women, when it comes to anabolics, like, they just have the craziest responses. Like, that's something that folks forget. Like, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but it's like, if you see someone who just like they just specialize in women. Like, I'm always a little wary when it's on that side, because it's like you can get away with a lot skill set wise when you're using that. And again, just from my experience, because I talk to everyone, man. I'm that dude at the gym where it's like, just I whether I want to or not, I find myself in everyone's business. Like, it's just what I've seen in the last 20 something years in regards to how well people respond. It is nutty, especially when it comes to women. So that's something you have to, I think, just take into consideration. But yeah, man, no, you're right in that. Ooh, the and even for me sometimes, man, like I'll see someone who like just really looks the part and they're doing something, and for a brief instant, like my brain goes there and I'm like, is there something there that I'm like missing? So it's human to have that response. It's like you want to see what the best are doing, but sometimes the best are the best for a number of reasons that whether it's usage, whether it's genetics, and often like the really incredible ones, like it's a combination of both. And as glorious as they are to have around in the sport, it's like sometimes they can be a bit misleading. But back to the powerlifter thing, it's kind of like the best. It to me, it's like saying, hey, basketball makes you tall. Right? It's like it doesn't work that way. It just so happens that a lot of powerlifters, like I know a few powerlifters who they were bodybuilders at a certain point, and it didn't work out, man. They just had these like massive hips. They were very tendony. The muscle bellies weren't full. And they try this powerlifting thing, and it's like boom, like excel overnight. So quite often when you see someone whose hips are like that, it's like honestly that's why they're doing so well in powerlifting. It's because that was there before the powerlifting. So yeah, that's something to take into consideration. It's not the sport. It's like the sport, especially with elites, kind of picks them to some extent.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's a really good verbiage. It's true. The sport picks you sometimes, right? It's like you generally gravitate towards things you're good at, and you're good at them just sometimes because genetically you're predisposed, which is sometimes, like we said before, the athlete they're not even aware of that. It's like, oh yeah, I'm good at this. It's like, well, there's a reason. There's usually a reason, for that. I want to get your take on, and look, this is a big question, so I'm going to kind of pinpoint it a little bit because there's so many areas you could go with this. But with all of your years of training at the minute, if you had to pick, 2 to maybe 3 of the biggest mistakes that you've made, that you've learned from, versus like 2 or 3 of like the biggest wins, and like on what you learned from those. You can just pick 1 or 2 from each, whatever's at this point, because if I ask you 6 months, you'll be something else. Maybe if I asked you 2 years ago, it'll be something. So just at this point, anything that comes to mind, like, these are the biggest fuck ups, but like shit I learned, versus like the biggest wins, highs in your careers where you were like, yeah, that also taught me something.
Ooh, I'd say the biggest mistake was probably not looking for mentorship earlier. I was good enough where I thought I could get away with that. And it wasn't until, I hired Lane. And for the first time ever, this was like 7 years in, I counted my calories. So going back to fundamentals, like literally that happened. And I'm like, I don't think I ever need to use drugs, because I got in such sensational shape, and I got to see what my body could do when I like manage things, so the first one probably would have been that. It's like, hey, like be selective. And especially now, like back then, it's like, who knows, man, I maybe would have gotten like in-town bozo who, would have like messed me up. But now there's almost no excuse for that, because you're not limited to who's in your town. Like you can, and honestly, it probably would have turned out okay, to be honest, like better than it turned out just me doing me. So yeah, finding mentorship early, I think is important. Because even on my end, man, it's like I have the privilege of interacting with and having some really good minds as my athletes, but they still need someone to lean on when stuff gets a little hairy, and a good mentor does that for you. So I think that's the big one. Yeah, it could have been better a bit earlier. Um, and then the when it comes to just good things, that stint when I decided not to use, it was probably the most intense 3 year stint of my life, my bodybuilding life, and I had no idea what I was working for. Like it's just like I was in school, but I didn't know exactly what it was that I wanted to do just yet. And but I'm like, you know what? I'm here. I'm busting my butt. I'm doing things a little differently from most 20 somethings. I'm very interested in improving myself and exploring and getting better and putting myself through whatever rigors I need to go through in order to morph myself into the person that I want to be. So sometimes it just feels like that. And what I mean by like that, there was times where it's just like, what am I doing this for? Like, is this what most like 22-year-olds should be doing? But at the end, it kind of worked out. Like I didn't have my first cup of coffee till I was 23. I didn't really even have beer until I was 28, like just here and there. So I kind of live my life in reverse from like how they tell you to do it. But it felt like a thankless thing sometimes. The whole like, I'm going to do something in this fitness sector, but I don't know what it is just yet. And I think thankfully for me, I wasn't as distracted by what social media is today, because I think had it been there, I would have wanted to like make an impact like now. It's like I need to contribute and I need to be a top dog here in some way or another. Whereas, I was just there working in the dark, getting busy, up all night on the internet, just reading, trying to learn as much as I could. And I think that did me a lot of good. So, so some people say the fitness industry is kind of saturated, and to me, it's like to me, it's evidence that a lot of people are making it in. You know, so if you do find yourself, because people who love this stuff, they love it, and if you love it, you understand how great this could be in regards to being enhancing the quality of your life. So you want other people to jump on this too. Like, you don't want this to just be for, the meatheads of the world. You think grandma should be lifting, the taxi driver should be lifting. Everyone should be lifting. And it's tacky as it sounds, man. I feel like the world would be a better place if everyone lifted. It's weird, but I can see how that would work. So yeah, if you're trying to break into this, it's like into the fitness industry, it's like, don't be too concerned with trying to make an impact now. It's like the more you charge yourself up, the more you go on like this metaphorical bulk of sorts, the better off you're going to be on the other end. Because yeah, man, it was a good 6-7 years of just being that weirdo that just all I wanted to do was this. I wanted to learn about this as much as possible. I was writing up diets and training for like people for free because I wanted to get good at this. So don't be in such a rush to have an impact. That's probably the one thing in hindsight that I did have that I'm like, okay, it's going to come. It's going to come. You just need to keep working and getting better. And eventually you will be rewarded in some way. And it's worked out and it's been a blessing. So yeah, that's the good and the bad, I guess.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing. I think that's super valuable. I know a lot of people that are listening are going to connect with a few of those points, and I can certainly resonate with, like you said, lifting. If people did it, I like you said, it's without sounding too philosophical and grandiose. I often, for me, like you said, if you love this, like, you're just going to do it anyway. And sometimes, I think the kids call it FOMO now, like fear of missing out, like that, right? And that's kind of sometimes can,
yeah,
unsettle you, and you're like, like you said, you just got to do your time. People, yeah, but I want to be where you are, or this person. And it's like, yeah, but you got to do your own journey. And often you've not seen what that individual has done. Like, you've not seen the years that person has put in to get to that point. It's like the whole reason why you should do something you enjoy, that excites you, because you're going to stick with it. If it's kind of just like it's a quick fix, I want to make some money, or I just think this is the next thing, it's like, you're going to end up on the back foot there. But yeah, I think a lot of people there can kind of take some wisdom out of that and go, you know what, like it takes time. Like, I remember when I was at Wintec studying in New Zealand, I had this guy at the time, he's probably 7 years, and he's like, he used to say to me, because I was that kid, like, wearing my heart on my sleeve, like, just go, go, go. And he's like, patience is a virtue. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, why do you keep, he's like, you just, like, it's hard, but just stay the course. And, like, I look back now and I'm like, that was good advice. Get that mentor, get that person who's kind of can help you out. But yeah, sometimes, in the moment you're like, I want to be in it, but you just got to trust the process, I guess, in many ways, which is easier said than done.
Yeah, I mean, lifting wouldn't be as exciting if, we got to the point where you could literally just pop a pill and like wake up with the body you want, and the same thing for, other things in life as well. It's nice that it's kind of an exclusive club where you have to, climb up, because, you get up there and you see the folks at that same section in the mountain. You're like, hey, we all went through the same shit basically. So, and you learn so much along the way, man. If it were rushed, man, it's like, I'm glad that, I guess it didn't work out, that I became like an overnight success or something, that I was raised in a different era. So I think, yeah, now it's a little bit more difficult, man, because everything looks glamorous on the internet. When like you meet enough of these people, you're like, it's not that way.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's character building. If you had, it's like winning a lottery. Like, part of it wouldn't be fun, like you can do a lot of good with it, but it's like having a cheat code, back in the old Nintendo days, and like you get everything, and then you're like, there's no sense of achievement, and then you get bored of it. So there's something to be said about like going through the process, and then you respect it more. You have a lot more appreciation for it, and like you said, the peers that are also there with you, because it's like, hey, you know what, like, and that's what I always say about training. I'm like, you can't, like, I love it because there's no shortcuts. Even if, you take drugs, like if you meet someone with a good physique, they've generally had to do something, genetically gifted or not. And especially if they're in the same realms as us, like, they have had to, there's a certain amount of effort and education required. So that, I'm not saying that everyone who lifts is a good person, but it kind of tells you, like, how you do one thing's how you do everything. Like, this person has a certain level of discipline, dedication, desire. There it is, the 3Ds, got it in there. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's so much more than lifting. And I say that to my clients. I'm like, it might sound a bit like rich now. I'm like, but trust me, like, if you enjoy this process, whether you don't have to become a coach or rocket scientist, but if you take what you can learn from the iron game and apply it to life, like, I'm telling you, like, there is a lot of takeaways, like overcoming adversity, constant resistance, just, it builds character, it builds fortitude. And I think that's what you said about, perhaps if people lifted more, they could carry that over into their relationships, their jobs, other endeavors. I often use what you said before. I take those principles now from training. Okay, if I want to learn to play the piano, like, let me find someone who can teach me the fundamentals, so then I can go away and actually enjoy the journey and progress with the fundamentals, rather than sort of just, going around in too much of a dark cave, if you will. So yeah, some great takeaways, man.
Yeah. At the end, it's always going to be you in bodybuilding. It's like you, the person. And especially when it gets hard is when you learn about you, the person, because guess what? Like, kind of bouncing off what you said, it's like, because that's you when it comes to everything else you do.
Yeah.
And telling you, man, bodybuilding is tacky as it sounds. I don't think I'd be the person I am today if it wasn't for how much it's exposed who I am at my core.
Yeah. Here. Ditto, my friend. Before we get into some rapid fire questions, which are a bit more fun before we wrap up, I want to ask you this question, because I know people are always interested, with the caveat of, obviously, which people should know by now, it's not magic, but, and you have, I know you've got your YouTube series, like Training in the Year 3000. I'd love to talk a bit about, and I'll link that in below, what your training looks like now. Just people are interested in it with your nutrition, just kind of a bit of an overview around that. I know people are very curious, and kind of what you're doing and what's next for you, as a bit of a synopsis.
Yeah. It's a very simple split, man. I think if people saw my stuff, they'd be like, really? But generally the way I do it, it's like 3 uppers and then 2 lower body days a week. That's basically it. And each one of those days, the uppers is like one's more catered to chest, one's more catered to like arms and delts, and one's more catered to like, back. But that's basically my programming. And I think at the forefront of it all now has been, I've been trying to simplify it like more and more, trying to isolate the compounds that like really get things going. Not compound lifts, but like, it's like, well, why is broccoli so good? Let's like really get in there and like figure that out, like in that sort of sense. So I'm 38, which means that I'm about approaching like my peak as a bodybuilder, natural bodybuilder right now. And how long that lasts for has a lot to do with how much I take care of the body. So I only want to expose myself to as many hits as I need to. So that has been what I've really been focusing on, is like trying to just make everything neat and tidy, so that what's there, it's there because it needs to be there and it has a purpose and it's dosed appropriately. So that's been literally what's been keeping me up at night. It's like trying to isolate those things.
Yeah, for sure. It's
I should have done that a long time ago, by the way.
That's the hindsight, wasn't it?
Like a lot of things, it's like if I could have had a talk with a 22-year-old version of myself, if I would have saved that dude a lot of 40 set leg days,
Well, that's it. It's sort of like take the low hanging fruit, like get the easy gains, and then when you have to be a little bit more even it is still simpler than what people think. When you have to do more, then do more. Don't just do more to get like the same, like literally, because like, yeah, I don't know, it's easy now. It's like, I speak to a lot of kids in the gym, a lot of young guys. Some of them I'm fortunate to work with. Some of them I can just say, I'm like, hey man, just like give me some time, like, or go to that YouTube, like watch these videos, like trust me, like you can do a lot with a little right now. Like, don't worry about doing all this stuff. You in here like 3 hours, 6 days a week, or you don't. But you do it. I did it. I train twice a day.
Yeah.
It's what you do with your nutrition, because you notoriously have a faster metabolism and require a lot of food. What are the current calories sitting at, and what are you using to get the food in at the moment? Because I know there's actually a lot of people out there who struggle with this. They're like, I'm not gaining weight. I'm like, yeah, you need to eat more. Like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm eating a lot. No, you're not eating a lot. Trust me.
Yeah. And ironically, some of those folks tend to kind of be on my side of the spectrum, where they're kind of burners, Yeah. So it's like, hey, low appetite, and then like you're constantly buzzing. So like for me, a big one has been it's like, hey, don't be completely sedentary, but I've managed to tone that out just a little bit, because otherwise I'm just everywhere. So I've been, just because it makes my life easier. But for me, usually it's like to get the about 45 that I need, 4,500. It's usually I wake up, vegetables, then, because there's going to be no room during other legs of the day. So a lot of veggies and then some fat in there, just to kind of get the calories up via that, take advantage of the fact that my stomach's empty. I can fit those vegetables inside at that point of the day, because it's not going to happen during dinner, not after all the many meals that happen throughout the day. So that snacking with things that would just be like shitty as diet foods, like those little energy bars, those little granola bars that are just dense with like nuts and carbs and glazed with honey, things like that. But at the end, like the biggest struggle is just still getting the good foods, the foods that, it's to have a balanced diet. So for me, it's veggies in the morning, and then a lot of good quality fruit juices throughout the day, along with fruits and some veg in there when I can. But the snacking, like I need to stay on top of the snacking. Like when I'm snacking, it's crazy. It's like I can feel it in my training. And then when I miss snacking, it's like yeah, you haven't been doing your job, which is hard, man, because when I work, it's just like I'm locked in, and like it's like it's like that kid that mom calls in. It's like, you need to come in and eat, bro. Like it's just now I have to do it for myself. But yeah, juices and vegetables in the morning and snacking, like that is how we make it there, and then whey protein shakes.
Yeah, I like it. This is true. It's the little things. It's a blessing and a curse. I always say I'm on the
Yeah,
same end of the spectrum, and yeah, it's good to a point. I think I've
to
got
a
better
point.
at yeah I've got better at managing it, but a lot of people struggle. So I like that. I think it's a great little takeaway because again, it's always like, hey, it's like like meal timing, positioning the food, and then having something easy, low barrier to entry. Like it's there, cool. Like you grab it, you get it in. So it's this little snack bar, but there's 200 calories. Okay, that adds towards the goal. Like just like if you don't, like one of my clients, he's like, shit, I'm at the end of the day, I got 1,000 calories. I'm like, yeah, well, you didn't get those snacks in, did you? He's like, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, like it's, and then you got the people on the other side who are like, I'd kill to eat that. And you're like, yeah, well, yeah, the grass is always greener, right?
Man.
One onto the rapid fire questions, which were a bit more fun in nature, but before my final question, and that is, and these are just for fun. They're a bit more human in nature. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be and why? And
Mm.
you can make it one.
Man, you know what? I thought I like the blue collar in Wolverine just because it's not that crazy. I was gonna say flying because that'd be pretty cool. It's like, hey, imagine like taking a chick out on the first date. It's like, what we doing? It's like hard to beat that, right?
This is true.
But Wolverine just it's like he ages slow, which is nice. It's like, hey, like get hit by a car. It's like I'll be cool before we get to the hospital. Hard to get intoxicated, so that'd be a cool party trick. But I like the blue collar in that, like he still had to learn his martial arts. But the healing, it'd probably be conducive to the weight training too, right? So it's like your body probably over responds. So it's like, yeah, I'm not taking steroids, man. It's just it's just the mutant in me. So yeah, I'd go with the mutant healing abilities, and hopefully Canada kidnaps me and gives me the claws.
It's a bit like that, isn't it? And he's actually he. It's a good one. I think the healing bit's good. He looked pretty decent, and that wasn't the last one. I think it was a couple of movies before, but he actually got in Hugh Jackman. He got in really good shape.
He did a good job.
For that Wolverine, he's pretty shredded, and I was like, because like we always watch films and people are like, oh, he looks amazing, and then like if you're in bodybuilding, you're like, it's not impressive, and because you know what shredded is, but I was like, yeah, he's pretty lean actually. I mean, that's pretty decent for a film. My next question is, because of the current situation, if you could, and this might be somewhere close to home, but if you could wake up anywhere in the world tomorrow, where would it be and why?
Ooh, Machu Picchu, probably.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that, like, the first time you see it, there's like something about me belongs there. Like, I need to see that. So it's to the point where it's like I could probably go, but it's one of those things where maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot by not going, and then I go there and it's like not what I thought. But yeah, Machu Picchu. I'd like to wake up there, sunny, but with some fog rolling in. Yeah, something about that place just calls me.
Yeah, man, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. It's still on my to-do list, but I've heard very good things. This is something about nature, and it's like, wow, like this is on the earth. Like we can do this. Like this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
If you could invite anyone to dinner, any three people, dead or alive, who would you have at the table? And that would change depending on when you asked, I know. So I guess just whatever comes to mind, right? Because you'll think on that, and then later on you'd be like, shit, I should have invited Einstein. God damn it.
He might kill me, man. But I'd go with. So there was a time where the human population like dwindled down to almost nothing.
Mm.
So whoever was the leader of that pack, man or woman, I don't know. I would like to have just a chat and be able to communicate with him, because there was I think we're down to just a few thousand humans. Like we were this close to piecing out. So Either that, maybe a Neanderthal, simply because maybe the same version, like Neanderthal, like last to go. Just anthropology. Like if I wasn't doing bodybuilding, I would do that. It just I love to look at humans as animals because that's what we are. Just how your dog has limitations, your cat has limitations. Like the same thing with us, and it's. I don't mean that in a negative way that we have limitations, but it's good to understand what you're dealing with, and um, the biology and the behavior of this creature, because it can foreshadow a lot of the bad stuff, and then also explain to us like what we can excel in.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's actually wildly fascinating as well. Something that I think it's almost like the extraterrestrial kind of story. Right? It's like, ooh, what's out there? But then also, yeah, man, imagine going back and speaking to a couple of those folks and those tribes.
Yeah.
Like you said, the different, for people who've read what is it now? By I always struggle to remember
Is
his
it the
name.
book Sapiens?
That's the one. That's the one. What is it? What's
I forgot his name. And the only reason I didn't read that is because I know everything on there because I've been geeking out on this stuff since I was like 12.
it's yeah.
So, but
Anyway,
it's a fantastic book. It is.
Yuval Noah Harari. There it is. Just for people listening, Sapiens. But yeah, no, because he's got like the three, right? But yeah, it's wow. There's a lot. This that shit that blow your mind. Recommend that to people. But yeah, wildly fascinating. My last question, Alberto, is one that I ask all my guests, and it is: can you identify a fear that you've had in your life? Could be current, could be past. What it was, what you've learned from that, or what are you learning from that? If it's something that you're still battling with.
Yeah. Shoot, I'd say no one's gonna get anything from this, but I used to move around as a child a lot. Like I think I went to 11 schools or something like that at the
Yeah.
end when I tallied them up. So I've always been hesitant to like just build and be fully settled. Like my house is like oddly just under furnished for those same reasons. I'm like, because like in the back of my head, it's like, what do we pack up and leave? Just it's just yeah, it's a weird fear. And I realize I'm like, hey, that's probably why you do it. Like this was something that I identified when I moved here to Colorado about 5 years ago. Um, but bright side of that is that I'm not afraid of change, I guess. And what it taught me to like move around all the time was to just learn to like, I guess, interact and be light. Because when you're the new kid many times over, you kind of have to learn that skill. So obviously, when you work with people, that's helped immensely because you can't talk to everyone the same. It's like you have to get a reading for them, and then from there decide this is how I'm going to approach this person in this situation. So yeah, I am overly aware of the fact that things can change in an instant. But I don't necessarily fear it, but I like to be perhaps too ready.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I can kind of resonate being someone who's traveled a lot, like moved a shit ton as well as a kid. I think that's kind of like if you do that, it's inbuilt in you. And then maybe, that's part of the kind of, pioneer that you might have in
Mm-hmm.
yourself where you're like, oh, what's the next adventure? What's the next? I don't want to get
Mm-hmm.
too settled here because, and that's kind of in all of our DNAs. I think a lot of us have just forgot it, like we were kind of just
Yeah.
wanderers and travelers and, more of us so than others, etc. Alberto, it's been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you being really generous with your time. I know we've covered quite a few topics and, through your journeys and experiences. For people who want to know more, I'll obviously link the pyramids and a few things we've referenced, but where are the best places that people can connect with you should they want to perhaps reach out or even just follow along for more?
Mm-hmm. So 3dmusclejourney.com, that's like the website. There's things up there on the weekly. We have an awesome group of people. So not just the coaches, but we have professionals who we've been able to attract along the way. Friends who it's like, yo, you're good at what you do. We like you. You fit in with the mission statement. So it's a great source. And I mean, I like to think that if you just now discovered it, that hey, you'll be sifting through that for a while, much like I used to back in the day. Whenever I'd find something good, and just I'd be there until like the birds were chirping, just reading along. So 3dmusclejourney.com. I'm probably most active on Instagram.
Yep.
I've been on a little hiatus from social media ish over the last few years, but that's strategic because fitness industry recycles people. People get bored of you. So I think it's like you kind of have to pulsate and come. But yeah, check me out there, because when it's on the Instagrams, and that's Nunez 3DMJ.
Awesome, dude. And I will put all the links as ever in the description below for people watching and listening. Before we go, if you had to leave the listeners with one recommendation that would improve their life so that they could do every day, could be something you've talked about, could be something different. What would you recommend people do to sort of enhance their happiness in life?
Yeah. Usually I do this at the gym, just because I've been doing this long enough where it's like people respect what I do. I like to hype people up, but it's got to be earned. It's got to be like, not in a fake way, but it's like encourage people, because sometimes it's, I forget sometimes, because I have the privilege to get a lot of people to, that encourage me, strangers encourage me. How strange is that? Right. So encourage someone, man. Like, just like, it's like, hey man, like, like mean it, and like bring some details, like, man, like you've gotten so much bigger across your upper back, stuff like that. It's like, damn, you've gotten so much stronger. I really like your form. Like you can do this with strangers somewhere. It's just crazy how like that stuff seems to boomerang back to you when you do it enough. So I try to make it a once a day thing where I find someone to just encourage in some way.
Yeah, man. 100%. It's like, I'm just thinking like the couples retreat, the guy with the long hair. He's like, encouragement, yes. I don't know if you've seen that, but like, I'm just thinking with the long hair too. Like,
I'm sure someone thought about that as I was hyping him up. Like, yeah,
like, that's the guy. But it's true. It's the simple things, my friend. So thank you once again for sharing, Alberto. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone listening and watching and tuning in. We appreciate it. You know the drill. If it's safe, leave a rating and a review. And of course, if you're on YouTube, share it with a friend, share it with someone who you think will also enjoy it. Remember to leave a comment if you want to see more, if you've got any questions for me or Alberto. And of course, subscribe. And until the next episode, stay fearless.